It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
But it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, all you hacking teaching pros, high-performing golf coaches, and continuous learners out there? I hope you all had a great holiday season. Happy 2019, and I'm excited to bring you my first show of the year. So welcome to the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, aka The Guru. If you've been listening to the last season, thank you so much. If you're new to the program, I want to welcome you. To reiterate my goal for this project, it is my mission to tease out the habits, life lessons, and self-development ideas from the best in the teaching and coaching world. I hope that you also find this information on this show applicable to all occupations and fields of study. I'm so grateful to all the outstanding guests that I had on last season and have been on this show so far, and their willingness to share their knowledge and expertise. But most of all, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing and also supporting the podcast. On this episode, I have my good friend, Chris Trevino. Chris is a former tour player, now teaching professional from Reno, Nevada. He owns and operates the Trevino Institute, which is a year-round performance center that also uses a couple different clubs in the area, such as the club at Arrow Creek, Lake Ridge Golf Course, and Wolf Run Golf Club for their outdoor work. Chris is a guy that comes at it from a tour player perspective, as he played the game at the highest level and still does, still a great player, and works with a ton of great juniors, as we discuss in this podcast. In this conversation, we also discuss the importance of working with your kids on the course, showing them how to play the game as opposed to just working on their golf swings, how he creates pressure in his training sessions for his kids, as well as so much more. He has a very interesting and entertaining journey that he shares with some great and extremely funny stories about his time spent with legends such as Phil Blackmore, Phil's father, who actually got Chris into the game and gave him his first golf lesson, as he details in this really interesting story how he got in the game. Also, he talks about his chipping contest that he had with Seve Ballesteros, and also his very interesting round of golf with legend Billy Casper. I want to give everybody a heads up. There is some language, there is some cursing from Chris, not from me. But that's just Chris, and I want to just kind of let everybody know up front, earmuffs if you got some kids around, but it just wouldn't be Chris Trevino without the language, so I told him I want the real Chris Trevino, and he did not disappoint. But I can promise you there is a very strong message that all of us can take away from this conversation to help your juniors, help your players, and the importance of playing the game, teaching your kids to learn to get it in the hole and not just swing technique. So without further delay, put your headphones on, pull the car over to the side of the road, because you will laugh, but you're going to get a ton out of this awesome conversation with the brilliant, but always entertaining, Mr. Chris Trevino. Enjoy. All right,
man. Y'all follow your lead. You tell me what's up.
This is it, man. Chris Trevino, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. You were just at my place doing some education with the Scott Calc certification thing and catching up, and we can kind of get into how we met, several years ago, and then
right
reconnecting, which would be really cool. But the first thing I want to ask you, though, is having that last name Trevino, right, and I'm sure there's been some mistaken identity somewhere along the line, right? So is there ever a time when you got misunderstood for maybe being Mr. Trevino's son? Is there ever that time?
Oh God. there's always, it depends, the closer you get to West Palm and the closer you get to Dallas, Texas, God forbid you ever shoot a decent round of golf in a tournament that matters. And then that's all they want to write about, or that's all they want to connect about. Cause he does actually have a couple of sons. Funny thing about him, he's married 3 times, all to a woman named Claudia.
Really?
How about that, right?
I didn't know that.
The guy's been married 3 or 4 times, and every wife that he's ever had, her first name has been Claudia. And he's had a bunch of sons. He's fathered, I want to say he's fathered 4 sons. Of course, I'm not one of them. But, and everywhere I would go, they would, and a couple of them, one of them owns like a golf ranch or was teaching at one time. And so a couple of them are decent players. And he's got his youngest son that he plays in the father-son thing deal now with, and I think he was at USC. I'm not sure if he was on the starting lineup or not, but he was playing it at USC. So yeah, whenever I was playing on the Hooters or Canadian Tour or any of that stuff, every time I'd play good, they'd write a little article saying Lee's sons, 2 off the lead or some bullshit, and next thing you know, I've got like a gallery of like 50 people, the next day, and I'm just sitting there going, dude, these people would have no idea that I'm not, related to him. But that story I shared with you at the sectionals, the U.S. Open, was probably the best story, because that was the one where I actually got to meet him and hang out with him after I played my practice round, because the head pro there just kept bending over backwards thinking I was his kid. Unbeknownst to me, I'm playing at the home club that he's a member at Hobe Sound Country Club. And it was just one of those crazy days where, the guy's offering me a free sandwich, free lemonade, he's kissing my ass all over the golf course, and then I get done playing and he goes, hey man, why don't you hop in the cart and I'll take you back and you can hit some balls with your dad and this, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's go hit some balls with the old son of a bitch. Let's go check him out. And look who I got. And he goes, who the hell's that? And he's like, well, what do you mean? It's your kid. He goes, that's not my son. Look at him. He's 6 foot tall and he weighs 180 pounds. That's not my kid. And the head pro looks over. I go, hey, bro, you didn't ask, man. You didn't ask.
That is awesome.
So that was awesome. But it was a very special day for me being, I got to kind of be back there on the back range. It's a private little inlet there in West Palm Beach, and hit balls with him for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And the guy couldn't have been nicer, man. Just super helpful. Guy still strikes the ball, pure. I mean, it ain't going nowhere, but I mean, it's dead in the center of the face, like every single hit, you know what I mean? So it's pure, dude. The guy's super rad. I heard he was even more awesome when he was, getting hammered and he was on the sauce. But
oh yeah,
by the time I got to him, he hadn't had a drink in probably 10 years.
Yeah, he was like, when I was a young professional, he was noted as probably the best ball striker out there on tour, and even in his later years in the senior tour, like he was just, we used him as a model like all the time, right? And the guy was, like a machine, right? And he was self-taught,
right?
So you guys have some similarities there, because obviously you're a great player, and that's what I kind of want to get into as far as your story. So take us back, like how did you get in the game? I mean, because you've got I always have respect for the guys that play at the highest level and then get into the teaching game and start teaching at a high level, because you're like a double threat, right? So I mean, tell me how that happened, because you're still playing great, but take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, my dad, God rest his soul, who passed away a few years ago, military guy, 30 years military, Master Chief in the Navy, super hardcore, super realist. It was one of those things where if you walked in the room and said, you wanted to be an astronaut, he'd be like, you're not going to be an astronaut. Shut the hell up. You're not going to master in astrophysics and go to MIT. Just shut the fuck up and go do something else. So at a very young age, I was playing all other sports. I was a really good baseball player. I pitched in Little League World Series. Had a cannon for left arm, but I was always pretty small. My dad was 5'8", and my mom was actually taller than my dad. And I think when I graduated high school, I was 5'7", $145. I mean, I hit like a really late growth spurt. I mean, now that I'm right at 6 foot, it came really, really late for me. So when I was 14, 15 years old, I had a cannon arm, but I was like a midget. I mean, I was a little dwarf that weighed like 120 pounds, you know?
So where did you grow up?
And
what part of the country?
So we moved around a bunch, but the majority was Southern California, Northern California. I lived in Hawaii for 5 years. Never touched a golf club. So I lived in NorCal until I was like 5, Hawaii until I was 10, and then San Diego until I was 15. At that point, Southern California had a school system where it was 7, 8, 9 was middle school, and 10, 11, 12 was high school. And after I just got done with, my 9th grade year, I was getting ready to move to the high school, and I was part of the cool group, and I hung out with all the jocks, and I played on the basketball team and baseball team and skateboarded and thought I was fucking Tony Hawk and shit. And, and I was just this all around kind of jock, but I was never like the first guy picked in team sports. I was always the second guy picked, but I always outperformed the guy that was picked first, right? I was just a gritty little fucker, and I was just good at sports. I mean, you give me a ball and a stick and I could make it work, I'll never forget my dad pulling me aside, one day or during summer, and I'm thinking, I got my little girlfriend, doing my little make-out sessions on the fucking weekends and shit. And he pulls me aside and says, "We're moving to Corpus Christi, Texas." And I went, "Excuse me?" He says, "Yeah, we're out of here. We're moving to Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm going to finish my last duty station. I'm going to retire back in the city close to where I grew up, and so you can be around my family." My dad was the oldest of 14 kids.
Oh, wow.
And he lived in a little city called Alice, Texas, which is about 20 miles west of Corpus Christi. And all of his family, he was the only one of the 13 brothers that kind of like left and got away. The rest of them still, to this very day, live there in the same town, right? It's this town of about 30,000 people, right? So I'm like devastated, right? Because now everybody, of course, the girlfriend gone,
right?
Cool guy group gone. Now I'm starting at a brand new school, all this other stuff, and we had to leave early. So my mom, bless her heart, was in charge of packing up the house, and we left and flew and moved over to Corpus Christi, Texas, like within 10 days. And on the trip over there, he says, "Look, we got to talk about something pretty important." I went, "Okay, what's up?" He's like, "Well, don't have any money to send you to college." And I went, "Okay, great. The hits are just keep on coming. Anything fucking else you got to say, while we're on it? And what am I going to do, work at McDonald's for the rest of my life?" He goes, "So you're going to need to get a scholarship." And I went, "Okay." He says, "And it's not going to be in any of the sports you play. You're not big enough." And I went, "Okay." And this is like, again, but God bless him, ultimate realist. He goes, "So you're going to play golf?" And I went, "Look, Dad, you're not going to get any pussy playing golf. There's no chicks in golf, dude." Because this is before golf was cool. This is like 1990, 1991, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing cool about being on the fucking golf team in 1991, right? So, and he's looking at me, he goes, "It's not about chicks, you dumbass. It's about you getting ahead in life. It's about you investing your time in something that's going to pay some dividends for you." I'm like, "I don't know anything about golf." He goes, "Don't worry about it. You'll pick it up." I'm like, "Great. Okay, I guess I'll just pick it up."
Talking about being pushed into the game, right?
Exactly, right?
That's the ultimate.
God, here we go. We moved to Corpus, and of course my dad is, the Master Chief at the naval base there, and just so happens they got a 9-hole golf course there with the driving range and putting green, chipping green, and he starts dropping me off there at 6:30 in the morning with a right-handed set of clubs, and I'm a lefty.
Oh my
And he
gosh.
says, "I'm not going to invest in left-handed clubs because I don't know if you're going to take the game seriously or not. So just fuck around with these and figure it out." So here I am at the golf course, 8 hours a day with 5. This is, the whole, the kids today, right? I sound like an old geezer now, but, this is no bullshit. $5 in your pocket, right? $3 of it went to lunch and $2 went to a large bucket of 100 balls. So once you rifle through those balls like a maniac, which every fucking dipshit kid does, now you've got 7 hours left with your thumb up your ass with no more money left. You don't have any golf balls left. And you don't have anything to do. So now I'm like, well, fuck, I ate the cheeseburger and the French fries. That's gone. 100 golf balls. That's gone. And now my dad's not going to pick me up for another 6 hours. This is not a good program. So
What are you going to do?
I just chipped and putted.
Yeah.
Right. So all I did was, because it was for free. I mean, I hate to say that, but I mean, it's like, this isn't the, I'm poor, desolate story. It's just, that was my budget. I had $5 And when I spent it, it was gone. So I started putting and chipping, of course, homemade. Don't know what the fuck I'm doing, slap dicking it around all over the place. And I started befriending the guys in the pro shop who were all in their early 20s. And of course, they don't want to go pick up balls in the fucking range picker. That's the last thing they want to do. For me, it's like the coolest thing ever because you're actually driving like this off-road go-kart, where you can go ape shit in this go-kart and do shit. So I actually thought it was fun, right? So they found themselves a ball picker, and I now found myself with infinite golf balls to hit, right? So within, a week to 2 weeks, I was already these guys' little slave, going around. And as fate would continue to work in my favor, as it has a big portion of my life, here comes Mr. Fred Blackmar, who at the time I had no idea who Fred or Phil Blackmar even was, because I didn't know about the PGA Tour, didn't give a fuck about who you were. I didn't care who Jack Nicklaus was, had no idea who any of these people were. I was just an athletic kid with a chip on my shoulder that if I was going to do something, I might as well do it good. And if I can beat you, how the hell am I going to beat you? That's all I really cared about. And the guys in the pro shop said, you got to go talk to that old man out there. He's the guy that knows everything about golf. He goes, that's your Mr. Miyagi right there.
Okay.
And I went, oh shit, Mr. Miyagi. Okay, I know about Karate Kid. I can get down with that. So I go up to the old man. And I said, hey man, I want some golf lessons. Total California fucktard. Yeah. Now I'm in the deep South Texas where it's yes sir, no sir, everything is sir. And I'm going up to the old man going, yo, bro. Looking for some golf lessons, bro. What's up? You gonna hook me up or what's up?
What did he say?
And he looks at me and goes, who the hell are you? I go, I'm Chris Trevino. And he says, I don't even know who Chris Trevino is. And I was like, well, I just started playing golf. He goes, well, what do you shoot? I go, don't know. Never played golf before. And he's looking at me and goes, are you crazy? And I was like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm getting a scholarship to college. And he goes, you ain't getting a scholarship fucking nowhere. And I went, how do you know? You don't know me, old man. You can't be talking shit about me.
That sounds
so now
familiar.
I'm like getting into it. Now I'm getting into it with this old man on the course or on the driving range. And unbeknownst to me, his son is, at this time, a 3-time tour winner.
Yeah, he was
right?
good.
Yeah,
for sure.
Early 90s, 3-time tour winner, just hit it in the water on fucking 17 at the Players to lose that year.
Oh my god!
Right,
gosh.
So like in 92 or 93, Blackmar had the lead standing on 17. On the 71st hole of the Players, Blackmar had the lead and hit it in the water. Juiced like a baby pitching wedge. The fucker hit those down. His clubs were 3 inches over. Lofts were all fucked up. The guy could tap on a pitching wedge. Hit it like 180 with a fucking balata, right? So, it was like, that's ridiculous, right? So he says, all right, I'll tell you what. He says, I like your attitude. He goes, you're spunky, you're cocky. He goes, you kind of got some shit about what it takes. And I'm like, okay. And he says, meet me here tomorrow, 5:30. I'm like, God damn, 5:30? The fuck? And I was like, this is my summer break, bro. Like, what's he goes, I said, meet me here at 5:30 if you want to be good. I'm like, all right, I'll meet you there. So my dad picks me up. I go, this old geezer is going to give me golf lessons. I guess he's like super good. He wants me to meet him at 5:30. Of course, that's music to my dad's ears, right?
Sure, he loved it.
He's like, shit, the earlier I can get my kid up, the better. And my dad taking over the Naval Hospital there, he wanted to be there, as early as he could anyway. So I show up at 5:30, sun's coming up. Here comes this old guy in a freaking, late 80s Suburban, backs up this Suburban, and I swear to God, he breaks out these 2 wicker baskets that look like dirty clothes hampers, and they're filled with Titleist Balatas. I'm talking like 500 in each wicker basket.
Oh, wow.
Right? And of course, I have no idea what a Titleist Balata even is, but like, it'd be like,
Hold on a second. You locked up there.
I've seen your balls at your range, motherfucker. They're good, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you there, buddy?
Yeah. You just locked up for just a second.
To a non-country club kid, if you dropped a fucking 1,000 Pro Vs at their feet and said, "Here's your practice balls for the day," they'd shit themselves, right? It'd be pretty amazing. So he says, "I want you to hit all these balls," and he goes, "And while you're at it, I'd be very aware of what you're doing because you're gonna have to go pick them up when you're done." And I'm going, he goes, so I'd suggest not spraying them all over the fucking place. And I'm like, well, I don't even know how to hit. He goes, don't worry about that. We'll worry about that later. You just hit the balls. And I'm like, fuck. Like, what the hell? You know, this is bullshit, right? So he leaves. He goes, I got shit to do. I'll be back later. Well, later meant dark, right? And if anybody's ever hit 1,000 balls in one day, and I'm not talking rapid fire bullshit. I'm talking like pick a target, go through routine, take a lunch break, right? Sip some water, you know, there ain't no texting on the phone. So there was no fucking bullshit phone stuff. I mean, you were there just hitting balls, right? And it is Corpus Christi, Texas, and it's summer. So imagine it, winds blowing 30 out of the south. It's humid as hell, and it's about 98 degrees outside, right? I'm fucking covered in dirt. I look like a dang Puerto Rican more than I look Mexican by the time I get done hitting these golf balls. He comes back. I pick up all the balls. We load them in the truck. He says, see you tomorrow, 5:30. I'm like, okay. Well, meanwhile, my hands are bleeding. Repeat the same process day 2. I don't say shit because I'm still a pretty respectful kid. You know, my dad's taught me the right way. Day 3, I do the same thing. Now I show up at day 4, and he drops the fucking balls off, and I start going, hey, dude, are you going to teach me how to hit anything, or am I just going to sit here and hit these damn balls today? He goes, like I said, shut your mouth, hit these balls, I'll be back.
So Mr. Miyagi-like, right?
Oh, yeah, dude, totally.
Wax on.
This time he comes back early, comes back at like 2:30, 3 o'clock, and he's got 2 lawn chairs and a mini cooler. Mind you, right? I'm 15 years old. He sits the 2 lawn chairs down, sits me down. My hands are shredded, bro. It's been like 3 days worth of beating balls, right? I've got no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I'm coming in off the guillotine plane, just chopping wood, homie. I'm straight chopping into the dirt. I've got dirt all over my body and crevices that I probably still couldn't get out. He cracks open a fucking Budweiser.
No.
2 of them. Hands me a Budweiser. Cracks open one for him. Cheerses me. Says, take a seat. We need to talk. And I said, okay. Here I am drinking my first beer with this 65-year-old man. I don't even drink beer. I don't even know what the hell's going on, right? He says, you know how many kids have told me they want to be a great golfer? I'm like, no. He goes, thousands. He goes, thousands of kids have come to my doorstep. He goes, you know who my son is? I go, no. He goes, that's why this is so beautiful. You could give 2 shits who my kid is. I go, no, I don't give a shit who your kid is. What I give a shit about is you teach me how to hit the damn ball because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Okay, that's what I care about. He says, all right, here's the deal. He says, you know how many times I've given this test to a kid? I'm like, what test? He goes, what I've been doing with you. Do you know how many times I've done this? And I went, no. He goes, about 125. And I went, you know how many kids got past day 1? I went, no. He goes, 0. He goes, I just wanted to keep going to see when you would actually break because now I know what the actual record's going to be. He goes, now any kid that wants to tell me they want to be good, if they can't make it to day 4, then they ain't worth a fuck.
I love it. That is awesome.
And so I actually get chills on my arm now saying it, but that was my first time anybody ever paid me a compliment like that. You know what I mean? It was the first time someone looked at me and said, you're different. You're special. Like, you can fucking do this. Like, I've got your back now. And he looked at me and said, here's the deal. I'll build all your clubs. I'm a master club builder. I'm a PGA professional. I design a golf course. This is my course. You are now my protege. He says, you'll never pay me $1 for anything I do for you until you graduate from college, until you graduate and get your golf scholarship.
Wow.
And I went, of course, me, again, not knowing how the industry works, you know, I didn't really understand how much of a favor that was. It was about $100,000 favor.
Yeah.
Right.
When did you appreciate that? You think what time in your life?
I think it really soaked in for me was unfortunately was when I was at his funeral.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And you have that time, you know, when I went to Corpus Christi and, you know, you go get shit faced and you're in a hotel room by yourself and all you have is memories, right, of what you've been through with this special person and what he's meant to you, right? Because I didn't have, you know, my grandparents passed away really early before I was like 8 or 9 years old, and this guy kind of became my grandfather, you know what I mean?
Right.
And in some ways my golf father, no question. And so day 1, dude, he taught me the grip, then he taught me the takeaway. Then he brought in Phil, and when Phil was on his off weeks, Phil would teach me the little short game shots, and then Phil would teach me, the swag and the course management, and then they both would take me on the course and beat the shit out of me. A lot of people didn't know that Mr. Blackmar was like the 7-time national left-handers champion. Like, wow. He was legit player. And what a lot of people don't know is that he was the captain of the team at University of Texas when Harvey Penick was the coach.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So Harvey Penick was his mentor, Mr. Blackmar's.
Yeah.
And so I literally hit the lottery, and this is how fate works, right? Like, my dad tells me you're moving to Corpus Christi. I'm fucking miserable. I think my life is over. And next thing you know, my life is really beginning, right? I mean, my life is really like just starting. And that's where I fell in love with golf. That's where I fell in love with, the quest of making the ball do what you want and competing and playing in tournaments. And to his word, he never charged me $1. I was literally like his only student. And because he could not stand working with a prima donna. Like, shit, half the kids I have to put up with and deal with in my fucking academy, he wouldn't even look at them sideways. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he just wanted people that were for real, right? People that were trying to push the limits. And I just lucked out, dude. I mean, there's no question. I mean, I'll don't know if golf nerds remember this shit, but when Payne Stewart and Paul Azinger were in a playoff at the Memorial and Azinger holed that bunker shot to beat Payne Stewart in a playoff at the Memorial, that night they were on a plane and were at Blackmar's house the very next day. The very next day, I was in a bunker with Paul Azinger. He was showing me how he hit that shot the very next day.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Because the guys used to come down to Corpus with Phil and go red fishing in the Gulf of Mexico. So Phil's like a master fisherman, like redfish, drum, like fly fisherman. Like, he's like super into fishing. So all the guys would come down and go fishing with Phil because they knew if they came with Phil, they were going to catch a bunch of fish. So they chartered a private plane, and I was hitting balls with Payne Stewart and hitting bunker shots with Paul Azinger the day after that Memorial tournament.
That's incredible.
So just crazy shit like that, where I just lucked out and hit the lottery, right? Like,
so where'd you go to school? What, like, take us through
I went to San Diego State. So they wanted me to go to University of Texas. That was the big deal. And the reality was that, at that time, I would have been a freshman when Justin Leonard was a senior. And we had Marcus Jones, Brad Elder, right? So we had like 3 eventual, dude, a lot of people don't know Justin Leonard. Like, that motherfucker was legit back in the day, dude.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
Playing with Persimmon Woods, like 5 years longer than anybody else did. Like, shooting 64 like it was 72. You know what I mean? Like, the dude was legit. I mean, so I personally, after a year and a half of I was a scratch player in a year and a half, but I'd only been playing golf for 2 years. And I just wasn't ready to take on – they could have got me in and I would have got a partial, but I didn't want to warm the bench and just fucking sit there on my ass.
You wanted to go play, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to play. So I had offers at a lot of decent places, and I ended up going to San Diego State.
Not a shabby program.
At this point, well, at that time, it was just at my era was the year, kind of like the beginning of the new start for them.
Okay,
we were probably 50th in the nation, but we still had, dudes that like to smoke weed and surf, and you know what I mean, like as much as they like to golf, right? It wasn't like it is now. My boy, and as luck would have it, my boy Ryan Donovan, who was a freshman when I.
Oh, you froze up there. Hold on.
They're in school.
There you go. You froze up just for a second there. Yeah, say that again.
Yeah, Ryan Donovan, who was on my team, he was a freshman when I was a junior, is now the head coach of the men's program there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know that guy's name. Because actually my son was talking to them as we discussed. And they're legit, right. Man. Xander Schauffele.
Yeah, so he's... Yeah, dude. They've
got some good players,
people, and they've got some good stuff. So I played 3.5 years there, and of course, when you're young and dumb, and you play a couple of decent college tournaments. I'll never forget playing in the NCAA's, playing in regionals with Rory Sabatini, who was a douche then as much as he is now. And the dude just wore me out. Like, At that point, I hadn't really played with a guy who, after I got done playing with him, I was like, well, fuck, I don't got what that guy's got. You know what I mean? Like, most of the time I'm playing with a guy going, I can't believe this fucking slap dick just beat me by a shot. You know what I mean? That's what I'm normally saying. Sure. You know, but after, I got to tell you, man, Rory Sabatini, say what you want about how his demeanor is on the course. He was the same way, cocky as hell, doesn't have time for your bullshit, isn't going to wait for you to go through your pre-shot routine, all that shit, you can stuff it up your ass. He's going to play golf the way he wants to play golf on his terms. And at that point, he was good, man. He brought a lot of good stuff. But that was hanging with him in regionals and putting up some good numbers in some bigger national tournaments. That's where I was like, dude, I'm ready for the pros. Like, I'm done. I'm out of here. Thinking I'm fucking LeBron and shit, you know. It's like I got to get out of here, you know. It's time for me to really make the big bucks, you know. I mean, this school shit's for losers, you know what I mean? Like I got to get out of here and go play. So my dumb ass, instead of, you know, finishing, you know, another 2 semesters of school and getting my degree, I decided to turn pro.
Yeah. So where did you go from there? Did you go to Q school?
So at that point, I got some money together and decided to play the Hooters Tour for a year. And so I flew over, and this is when you had to, like, go get your Hooters Tour. I know it sounds cheese dick now, but you actually had to, like, go get your Hooters Tour card. Like, you couldn't just – pro events now is just, like, organized gambling, and the event takes a portion of the cut for shifting the money around to the people that need to be shifted around to, right? But if now anybody can just call themselves a pro if they have $1,000 in their pocket and they go put it up in a 2-day or 3-day event. But back then, you actually had to have status on the Hooters Tour. So they made you fly to Florida, and I shot like, 9 or 10 under, finished like 5th there. They gave out like 20 cards for the year. And that's when I met Mr. Chad Campbell.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Holy shit. So, again, and I think every guy who plays at a high level, or any guy who does anything really well, probably even, you know, if Manziel ever hears this, you know, I mean, it's like, if you're good at what you do, there's this part of you that thinks that you're kind of the best, right? I mean, you're kind of the shit. Like, you're the man, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I grew up in Southern Cal. It was me, Perez, and Hoffman, right? So it was Charlie Hoffman, Pat Perez, and myself were sort of the 3 guys that if you hosted an amateur event in SoCal, one of the 3 of us were going to win. I mean, that's just how it was. Now, they got the better of me more than I got the better of them, but yet we were still mixing it up, right? Perez was always the most talented. Charlie was always the most consistent, right? And I was probably always the biggest shit talker, right? But it was like, it was one of those 3 things. But when I went to play on the Hooters Tour, I was leaving my comfort zone. You know, I was in an unfamiliar territory, right? I'm in Mississippi one week. I'm in fucking Alabama the next week. I'm in your hometown one week, right?
Yeah.
So here I am for the first time living out of my car, you know, staying in these shithole hotels, you know, and I remember, you know, I missed my first like 3 cuts in a row, right? So I'm already down like, you know, almost 10 large fucking in 3 events, right? Because I'm not like these other guys who are sleeping in their fucking bed and their mommy's making them pancakes in the morning. Like I'm on the other side of the fucking planet from where I'm from, right? I'm like, every day it's costing me money to fucking be on the road, right? So fucking, I remember making my first cut, and I'm like 5 under par for like 2 days, right? But I've only made like 4 bogeys in 36 holes, right? And I'm playing about as good as I would think a fucking dude that doesn't know the golf course can play.
And you're probably getting lapped.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like I've missed a couple birdie putts, but fuck, I've only made 4 bogeys in 36 holes. I mean, that's not terrible. And I look up on the leaderboard, and like Chad Campbell's like 17 under par, you know, and I'm like 5. And I'm going like, wait a fucking minute here. Hold the goddamn phone. What is this motherfucker playing the same course I'm playing? Like, does he get to play the ladies' tee, or does he get to quit after 13? I mean, how the fuck is this working right now? Like, who's cheating me out of my money right now? And 2 weeks in a row where I finished like, I mean, you know, mediocre, middle of the pack. But I'm getting beat, bro. I'm getting beat, Guru, by essentially 20 shots a week. I'm getting beat by. So finally, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I don't even know who this fuck. Nobody that I've never heard of can beat me by 20 shots a week. Nobody. Well, then you go look them up, And next thing you know, you're like, oh, you've played in 4 U.S. Opens. You were on the national championship team at UNLV.
Yeah.
And you start padding this fucker's resume, and at that point, he'd missed Q school like 4 times in a row. He had been on the Hooters tour for 4 years at that point. He'd played 3 U.S. Opens, and he's won over $1 million, homie.
Oh my gosh, and hadn't got to the tour yet.
He had won over $1 million on those dog shit purses that we were playing for.
Yeah.
The motherfuckers won right at $1 million, dude. So when you added it up, Chad Campbell was probably, and this isn't something you probably want to, fucking put on your headstone when you're on 6 feet under, but he's probably the greatest mini tour player in the history of mini tours.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard that.
Of, like, lifetime mini tour earnings, he's probably he'll go down in history as the greatest mini tour player of all time. And now now you look at him on the tour, and he's a super awesome guy, but he blends into the pack, right? Like, he's not a standout player as it relates to the guys that we're watching week in and week out. But I'm here to tell anybody who's listening on this fucking podcast, you rewind the tapes to the year 2001, 2002, 2003, that motherfucker would give Tiger a game any day of the week. As long as it's a podunk cow pasture in Biloxi, Mississippi, that motherfucker give anybody a fucking game. I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. The scoring average was like 66.8 for the year.
I don't care where you're playing. That's amazing.
Oh my god, dude! I mean, it was unbelievable. So,
and they're playing golf course. You're playing golf courses that aren't in good shape. I worked with a ton of guys on the Hooters tour, and like they just told me how crappy the conditions were. And he's shooting those numbers. His swing is so pure. I remember I used his video as a model so many times in golf lessons over the years.
And it was interesting because I always grew up taking the left side of the course out of play. Everyone was like, well, you got to take the left out. You got to take the left out, right? And it was always a course, in the old days, it was this manufactured kind of holdy release, right? Chicken wing bullshit, right? Where you just kind of had good enough hands to fucking hold the face off kind of thing. It wasn't this sophisticated, get your face open to your path and, hit it on the heel because there's gear effect on the heel. Nobody fucking knew any of that bullshit back when you were playing. Yeah. You were just holding the fucking face open and trying to make it not go left, right?
Yeah.
So, what I witnessed with him, because after my 3rd week of getting my ass handed to me, I go, I can't take it anymore. I'm dew sweeping it on Sunday with the fucking chopper. Right. So I fucking go dew sweep it off 10, right? I'm first off 10, which you never want to be first off 10 in a pro event ever on Sunday. So here I am first off 10 like a fucking slap dick. I go and shoot my little fucking 72, right? With a 2 doubles because I'm a spaz. And then I get done and I'm like, Chad Campbell's like on 7, right? Like the guy went off at like 1 o'clock off 1, right? I mean, it's like he's barely fucking. He's not even made the turn yet. I'm like, you know what? I could normally go to the strip club and drown my sorrows, but in this case, I'm gonna fucking go get a bottle of water like a gentleman, and I'm gonna watch this fucking asshole that I've never heard of, who's beating me by 20 shots a week, and I'm gonna go watch how this guy does his job, right? Like how is he doing what he's doing, right?
So what did you notice?
Well, he's gunslinging it off the shoulder, right? And he's at that point, had we had him on TrackMan, it wouldn't have shocked me if he was swinging about 10 right.
Yeah, he had a very low arm plane. I know his swing very well. Kind of an open-ish face, though, like kind of a flip release from the inside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this guy was the first guy I saw that never pushed the envelope when the hole was going left to right. So when the hole went left to right, he hit iron to the corner. And then when the hole went right to left, he'd hit driver on every single hole. And he would take the right side out of play. So he was like slinging it like Rory and then course managing it off trouble right, not trouble left.
Gotcha.
And the guy was just unbelievable trajectories, right? Like just beautiful pockets in the sky, right? Very Trevino, Texas. He grew up in Texas, right? Yep. So he's got that Texas ball flight pocket, right? Where he's like, his stock ball flight's probably about 80-foot apex, right? So every ball he fucking hits, whether it's a wedge or a 4-iron, it doesn't get above 80 feet, right? And it's always turning to the left. And the guy got better the closer he got to the green. That was the other thing. It's like he was a better wedge player from 50 yards than he was 100, and he was a better wedge player from 10 than he was 50.
Because he had that more neutral kind of open face, right? I mean, I think
right.
I think that was kind of like you, bounce. Yeah, because that's why you're so good around the greens, I think.
Mm-hmm. So he had that thing going, dude, and I was just shocked at. And obviously, you know, you don't shoot scores like that without making putts inside 10 feet. So it just seemed to me, and I'm sure the stats would say otherwise, but it seemed like the guy didn't miss a putt inside 10 feet. Like it just didn't seem like he missed, you know, and I truly feel like for that year in which, you know, he bitch slapped the whole field. I just think he probably, had we kept some stats on him that year, it could have gone down as probably one of the better putting years, you know, in competitive golf, because he truly was magnificent inside 10 feet, because he could skank a wedge from 30 yards or 20 yards and hit inside 10 feet, and he'd just make it every time. So it was just the most efficient golf I had ever seen. You know, if the pin was on the right side, he didn't try to get cute. Like, he didn't try to cut it to the pin. He didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
He just hit it in the middle of the green, and if there was more left pins that day, his par was probably 67. And if there was more right pins that day, his par was probably 70, right? And unless you've played the game at a high level, sometimes it's not even your game that is the deal. It's just how they set the course up. And, you know, it wouldn't even shock me that some of the Hooters Tour guys that were really good friends with him, and he was like their poster child. Fuck, it wouldn't shock me if they just, because they were setting the pins anyway, so it probably wouldn't shock me that, hey, put fucking 9 pins on the left. Let's let Campbell shoot 62 again. It looks good on the internet. So I lost $30,000 my first year.
Did you ever get to play with him? Did you get to meet him or play with him?
Oh yeah, I played with him 3 or 4 times. And like you said, I mean, he's as humble as it comes. You know, Von Taylor, Zach Johnson, those guys were all guys that were coming up at that time on that tour. And, you know, every single one of them, I would say Zach Johnson at that time for me was the least impressive of the 3 of those.
Sure.
And how ironic that
he's like the best.
By far the most. To Bender, who probably I'm sure a lot of instructors have, you know, strong opinions about.
Mike Bender. Yeah.
Tribute to Ben. Yeah, tribute to Bender in the sense that I think the education that Bender did on swing plane and face alignments and things of that nature, I really do feel that propelled Zach to another level, because, you know, I'll be the first to say I would have played him for anything, anytime, anywhere growing, you know, in those early years.
Sure.
Strong grip, couldn't hit it in the air, shitty driver of the ball and not long, right? Like, that's a bad combo when you're short and crooked.
Yeah, exactly.
He could always putt, right? I mean, he could always putt. Like, I don't think anybody taught him shit about putting.
Yeah.
But I really do feel like Bender gave him some really good puzzle pieces about playing and about face and things of that, and how his grip relates to the face, and how, you know, rotations and things like that can help sustain that grip, because he definitely was not as good of a striker as he is now. So that was all those things, bro, for me were just huge. What I end up, you know, of course, when you're young and you're getting your ass kicked, you're sort of jaded and you're like, oh, well, fuck, you know, he got the good wave. He was on the good wave. I got the shit wave.
You're complaining.
If I played late early, I had to play early late. You know, like, shut the fuck up. Like, God, shut up, you fucking vagina. Right? So it's like, but when you're young and you don't want to look yourself in the mirror, which is very hard to do, you come up with these excuses to not keep it real, right? And I think that's one of the beauties of why I have had some success in the coaching is that I just don't let kids lie to themselves.
Yeah.
I don't go along with their bullshit. And I have such strong opinions about it, because I know that it gets you nowhere in life. You know what I mean? Whether you're trying to be competitive or whether you're trying to just be, you know, a solid person, you know, excuses are just not where it's at. You know, it's all about adapting, overcoming, learning, growing, changing. Those are the attributes we want in our young students and our young kids. Right. And so I try to speak really highly to those things, because I know what the flip side is. I really feel like, had I had somebody call my shit out when I, you know, like I do to my kids, my story could have turned out a lot different.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that you definitely bring value to your coaching now, because you've been there. I can't say that I've played at the highest level like you, and so I think it's such an attribute. We've talked about this, and I really credit you for trying to fill in the gaps of the other side. Right now, you're trying to work on the technique stuff, the coaching.
Right.
Then that's you come to a Scott Calx seminar. I mean, dude, you're going to be unbelievable when you get all of that together, right? And we're going to do some cool things in the future. We've talked about it. Right. So
there's an art form. I truly believe, like, what I admire most, it was a huge eye opener for me when, like I said, we could have some serious drinks and entertain the podcast members with John Doherty stories. But I do owe John Doherty so much, because what I thought was the biggest prick golf nerd of all time that was basically talking shit about my game turned out to fascinate me in a way that I probably hadn't been fascinated or encapsulated by until Blackmar. Because I always tell people I've only had two coaches. I've had Phil and Fred Blackmar, and I've had like John Doherty.
Right.
Like everybody else to me was a poser. And I'm not gonna, I haven't had enough drinks tonight to go on record with who I've worked with, but I have worked with a lot of people. And there was a time where I was one of the most highly funded players coming out of Southern California. So money was never really an issue for me. I was sent to some of the best names in the business, and they never did. They could never watch me hit 3 5-irons and break apart my whole pattern, my whole ball flight, my whole Q school. Right. And as misdirected as some of Doc's shit was, because he had all that Mac blood running through his veins at the time. So
let me stop you there and give the listeners a little bit of context. So John Doherty's a good friend of mine, was a teacher from Tullahoma, right? And that's sort of how we
Tennessee.
met. Yeah, absolutely. So and Doc spent a ton of time with Mac and Lynn Blake and TGM. Like, it's just super smart, great guy. So that's how we met. Is we stayed together at the PGA show, 5 years ago, I guess it was?
Yeah, I think it was. It's hard to believe it was that long.
I know, right? So, and that's how we sort of got connected, and you guys were working together and kind of working through some stuff. But yeah, you can continue on. But yeah, I think, that's it's a good context of like, where you've come. So when you met Doc, like at what point in your career were you at?
Yeah, so when I met Doc, I had been to 7 Q schools. I had missed finals by 2 shots 3 times. Right. So I've been right there because a lot of people say second stage is harder than finals. Because if you make it to finals, even though your status might be fucking dog shit, you're gonna get status.
Yeah, you get something.
You're gonna get something, right?
Yeah.
So it's really second stage, which I think now is third stage because they do a pre-qualifying thing now.
Right, exactly.
But whatever it is, that stage right before you're gonna get some kind of status, because once you get status, now you can sign that bullshit $15,000 deal with FootJoy. You can get about, if you're and if you have my last name. At that point,
if you're Lee Trevino's son,
if you're Lee Trevino's illegitimate fucking kid, it wouldn't have been a shot in the dark for me to get $100,000 before I even teed it up in my first event, right? So, it was really about second stage that was the ball buster for me, and I was putting so much stress on myself, and in honor of our buddy Scott Calx, I had no pattern, I had no identity to my ball flight. I was literally a guy that could just hit it really far distances, relatively, straight. And I had great short game. Like I had really good touch around the greens. I was above average putter. I was a way above average wedge player, and I could hit it far. But the stuff in between, I had a lot of Swiss cheese in my game, and I just wasn't. I couldn't put together 4 rounds mentally and emotionally. Now that I look back, but also like the consistency of how the ball was coming off the face. I had no aiming pattern. Like I was just very vulnerable to a double side pull or some weak block because I just didn't have it all figured out.
So your shotgun was a little bit big, would you say?
Oh yeah, in honor of our boy Fawcett. Yeah.
So do you think
right.
do you think segueing into that story, do you think if you had a decade, maybe you would have made it?
You know, I got to give him some props. He would have had, he would have had a lot harder time, containing that fucking Mustang. When I was 25 years old, to tell me to aim away from the pin with a pitching wedge, I would have told him to go fuck himself. And I would have been like, let's go to the course right now, bitch. I'll show you. And of course he probably would have won with his fucking bullshit probability, this and that and the other.
Game
I couldn't
theory.
even spelled probability when I was 25 years old.
So have you ever met Scott Fawcett?
Yeah, well, yeah. We had a nice run in at the TrackMan conference in Vegas.
Tell me about
where
that.
I was the only one that was willing to speak up in a group of golf nerds because he was so he had a few drinks the night before and he wasn't feeling top notch going into the next morning, but like a champ. He was there, giving us the goods, and his voice was actually really hoarse. Because he had been, when you're in those nightclubs and stuff, you got to yell all night, and your voice the next day is terrible. And so he was apologizing, but his voice made him sound even more badass than he already is, right? So because a lot of these little geeks in there were like, they just bought a TrackMan last month and they're fucking afraid to turn it on and shit. And, let alone get in an argument with this guy about, his dissertations on face to path and everything else. A lot of them fucking didn't even know what he was talking about. So, the story is pretty simple. I was just saying, well, if you're 100, I said, what happens when you get that feeling? And because we, as all golfers, whether you're a tour player or not, you stood behind the ball, took a practice swing, and you just knew you're going to hit it good. Like you just knew it. Like, I don't know where it comes from. I truly feel like Tiger had some weird shit going on in 2000. He could do it 50% of the time, but there's those 3 to 5 shots around where I just know I'm not going to miss-hit it. Me personally, right?
Sure.
So I decided to bring that up, and I just wanted his opinion on it, and his opinion was that I was a fucking idiot. And my opinion was that he was a dick. And then between me thinking he was a dick and him thinking I was an idiot for saying that, we had some choice words, with each other, which basically ended up saying,
you don't know me, bro.
You don't know me, bro. And it was like, he goes, I don't need to know you. He goes, trust me, if you were as good as you say you are, you wouldn't be sitting here in this fucking room. You'd be on television right now. Enough said. And he just basically, when you whip out your pee-pee and you think you got a decent one, and then somebody whips out theirs and it's 4 inches longer, that's where he just whipped it out like elephant trunk on the table, boom, and just set it down. And next thing you know, the whole room's waiting for my response. But at that point, what the fuck am I going to say? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't have anything. I don't you went to the end, bro. You crossed the line. You can't end the conversation with that. 'Cause now I have nothing to come back with. So we end up, kissing and making up at the end. But no, I think his work is I teach his work, to this day. So I'm very thankful for meeting him. And although in the moment I was, I guess, looking for a little different response, I understand that, the numbers are the numbers. And if you just play inside, at least that way you live and die with your strategy, right? So
sure.
You're not out there second guessing the next day going, well, God, if I just would have target shifted, on those 3 holes, I would have made the cut. It's like, if you do it religiously and it's part of your discipline, then you take emotion off the table. And I also think that was a big part of my fluctuations, was that I think a true professional, and looking back now, a true professional has the ability to take emotion off the table and do what's in the best interest of the tendencies, and to do what's in the best interest of scoring and those kinds of things. And when I was 25 years old, I certainly was way too much of an emotional animal, no question about it.
Yeah, no doubt. So talk about how you developed your short game, because I was super impressed when, I was really honored that you actually came out and took a lesson from me, for one. That was really cool. We had a full swing lesson, then we did a little bit of putting work before you left, and hopefully we'll do some stuff in the future. But like you said, you've lived a kind of a storied life with meeting some of the greats in the game. And right. I think, you got to meet one of the best short game players ever played the game of golf.
Right.
Do you remember that story?
Oh, the Sevi story?
Yeah, like Severiano.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that had to have a big effect on a lot of the stuff you do now, right?
Yeah, well, you know, to go back, you know, the big deal for me was, you know, Blackmar taught me, you know, like when you know how to use a wedge as like a tool for a specific job, when you can match how the ball's resting with the tool utilized correctly with the technique to make the tool work the way it's supposed to work. Like if it's a 3-step system, you're kind of like always the 80-20 guy. Like unless you're a fucking, you know, spaz, you're going to pull off a pretty decent shot, right? Like, but most people who don't hit wedge shots very well, they're either misreading the lie, misjudging how to use the tool, or misapplying the technique that goes with how the tool's resting in that moment, right? So I just got lucky that Phil and Mr. Blackmar were like short game specialists, right? I mean, Phil was a 6'9", you know, he's still to this day, I believe, the tallest guy to ever get a tour card, tallest guy to ever win on tour, no doubt. 6'9", 300 pounds, but the guy had beautiful hands. I mean, the guy had unbelievable touch for such a big player, but he missed tons of greens. So, I mean, he was about as wild as it was going to get. And, you know, just a funny quick story is he got into he now does announcing for the Golf Channel and I think NBC as well on certain occasions. And he would, because he's a pretty articulate guy, he's read books on quantum physics, and he'd probably be a great guy to have in the modern day, you know, golf teacher forums and stuff. Friends with Mike Malaska and guys like that, right? That were part of the Jim Flick crew. That's kind of his. He's actually, I still believe to this day, he's still a certified Nicholas Flick instructor. So I think he taught with Jim Flick for a long time when he got done playing. But he said they used to put him with Tiger's group because he was one of the guys who could kind of eloquently talk about what the hell Tiger was doing. And he told me one day, he goes, dude, he says, you know me, Chris. He goes, I hit it wild. He goes, I hit it all over the fucking map. I go, yeah. He goes, if I had to play golf from where Tiger Woods is playing golf, I couldn't keep my card. I could have never kept a card if I had to play from where Tiger was playing from. And he goes, and not only is he making the cut, he's threatening to win the tournament from places that most guys couldn't keep their card. Like that was a real statement from Phil Blackmar. I just showed you how awesome Tiger really is. But when it got down to the short game in Texas, the lies are shit. So like there is no fluffy nice grass. There is none of that shit. Your ball was always sitting in between two clumps, or it was on a dirt patch, or was on like a sandy thinny, like fucking like that sandy thinny shit that makes your fucking skin crawl. Like I grew up hitting the ball off of like wet sandy like beachy lies, and that's what Sevi and I had in common. So Sevi, obviously, for those of you that have seen the little cool movie that has been put out now by the Golf Channel, which I think is an awesome movie. It's all in Spanish, but they do the subtitles. Like Sevi grew up not only hitting off wet, hard packed sand. That's where you get the pinch from. That's how you can pinch it. But he grew up like lowering his handle and like feathering a 3-iron and a 5-iron open and hitting like spinny little flippers with 5-irons and shit off sand, bro. It's like, come on, dude. If you could chip off sand with a fucking 5-iron, you get on grass with a 56-degree wedge. It's like cheating, right? It's like it's like the hole becomes the size of a pizza, right? I mean, it's like it'd be like putting to a thimble all day long, and all of a sudden you look at a real hole, and in your brain it's like, holy shit, it looks like a bathtub, right? So guys that grew up chipping off of crappy lies that actually got to learn how to use the wedge the right way, I just think they've got a huge advantage over everybody else. So like what Mr. Blackmar did for me is, well, as a kid, every time I would plump the ball up on a nice lie, because he was a lefty, so we would chip nose to nose. So his wedge and my wedge were like only like 2 inches apart. Every time we would set the ball down, right before he would hit, he would kiss the toe of his wedge into my ball and knock it off the little perch I put it in. And he would tee his up all sexy and shit. Yeah. And then I would have to chip him for points, but I would have to chip out of the shittiest lie, and he would have to chip out of the good lie.
Yeah, just classic.
But, so that's how I learned how to hit a wedge, and it was mostly due to environment more than anything else, and the fact that my swing was dog shit, and I just missed I missed about 9 greens around. So I mean, if I was going to compete, I had to chip.
So tell us the story about Sevy when you met. And then you were with a friend that was coaching Sevy, right?
Yeah. So a buddy, a kind of a friend of mine was enlisted to help Sevy. Right when Sevy was turning 50 and getting ready to go on the Champions Tour, this was going to be kind of his last hurrah, right? So he was wanting to play some events in the U.S. You know, the European Senior Tour really wasn't cutting the mustard, right? So he wanted to play in the U.S. and play on the Champions Tour. And so he enlisted the help of my buddy. And so I get a call one day from a buddy of mine saying, "Hey, man, I need you to come out and translate for me. Because I know you speak Spanish." I'm like, "Well, shit, I don't speak that good of Spanish." He goes, "Well, you want to come out and hit some balls with Sevy or not?" And I'm going, "Sevy who?" And he's like, "Sevy Ballesteros." And I'm like, "What the fuck? What?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there right now." Right. Yeah. So I go and drive up and I meet the guy. And again, very pleasant. He's got a little mini entourage around him. And we go out on the course. And, of course, poor guy, he's got the Ian Baker Finches going on. I mean, the fucking dude is like, hitting like 30 yard, they're going like out 30 yards and sniping in the shit. And then if he doesn't snipe in the shit, he's blocking it. Right. So, I mean, and we're playing at the Grand Del Mar. And it's kind of a hit the fairway or lose your ball kind of golf course. So it's not really like a tree line course. Sevy was famous for tree line courses because once your ball rattles around the trees, it usually will fall down and you can figure it out from there. And that's all he needed was a chance, right? I mean, if you gave that guy a chance from anywhere, he could make it happen. But we're on lunch break and he wants, of course, he's still a competitive guy and I'm a competitive guy. And he says, "You want to chip for dollars?" And I'm like, "Well, fucking sure." So I break my 60 out, right? And he tells me in Spanish, he says, "Choose any club you want." And I went, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Go ahead and choose a club. Like, I'm obviously not going to fucking beat your ass with my 60, kid. So go ahead and pick a club that you think you got a chance of beating me with." I'm looking at this guy going, "It can make him." But I'm going to, I'm going to pick an 8-iron and I'm going to see if you can fucking beat me with an 8. This 8-iron. Yeah. And I'm not kidding. It was 18 holes.
So
right?
Hold on, you cut out just a second there. Okay, so you picked an 8-iron.
I picked an 8-iron. It's 18 holes. It's a buck a point. I lost $17.
Oh my gosh.
I lost $17, and I'm not kidding. And I was hitting the ball. I mean, I'm picking some flops over bunkers. I'm picking bunker shots. I'm picking dirt lies, uphill lies, buried in the rough. The ball's buried in the rough. I'm hitting like this open face, splashy, floppy bullshit, and it's like landing 3 feet short and running past about 2 feet, right? So now I'm like 2 feet past the pin. I'm like, yeah, suck on that, bitch. Like, what's up with that, right? And even he's like, ay, buen tiro. Buen tiro in Spanish means like good shot, right? Uh-huh. So he's saying, ay, buen tiro, amigo. Like, but in a way like, oh, good shot for you, you little bitch. Like, he's not saying like
he's getting a hole.
Saying good shot like he means it. He's saying good shot for like a guy of my skill, right? Which is kind of like a fucking slap in the face considering that this is all I got at this point. Like, this is like the best part of my game. Other than hitting the ball, 350 every once in a while, this is all I got, right? So he takes this 8-iron out, bro, and flies it a foot closer to the hole in the air than I did and stopped it a foot before my ball.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm going like, what in the fuck was that? Like a buried ball with an 8-iron, and he puts more rip on it than me and gets it to hold its flight pattern tighter than mine did.
So what did you notice that he was doing technique-wise? Lowering the handle? What did he...
Yeah, he was a master at, like, a little bit of what Cokes was saying. Like, as a matter of fact, like, props to my boy, Scotty, the freaking Cokes. I was actually somewhat shocked that a guy that teaches golf for a living had that good of hands. Like, he was actually hitting some really nice wedge shots.
With one hand.
With one hand, and he understood like I think he called them the dampeners, or is that what he was calling them?
Yeah.
Like these different
getting it off
dampeners.
the toe and stuff. Yeah.
And what's your buddy's name? Is it Ridgefield or something like that?
Ridgyard.
Yeah. So you were saying that he had similar, sensations, but if you understand how to make a ball come off a face soft, Sevy was the master at the dampeners. he was just a master at the breaks, the wrist breaks, the chicken wings, right? The toe hits, the deflection, right? How to work a blade in at a certain angle and have it come out at a different angle, right?
Right.
And he just had such precision in the way that he was creating these angles to get the ball to squirt out a certain way and land a certain way. And it was just literally like Mozart or Beethoven, right? It's like, you know, a good pianist can play a certain tune, but if I'm assuming that in their heyday, if you listen to them, it would just be the same song, but played way better. Right.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like a Stevie Ray Vaughan playing guitar, right? It's like other people can play blues, but like, you know, you're listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan when you're listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? So it's like, there's just things about geniuses that they put their own twist on things. And it might not make sense to you, but the result is this thing of beauty that you're in awe of, right? And to lose $17, which by the way, he wouldn't let me pay him, right?
Yeah.
Because he already knows I'm a fucking struggling mini tour player that's missed Q school. He's a fucking, 20-time Ryder Cup fucking major champion, right? So he's like, hey, keep your money, you fucking chump. I already knew you were going to get your ass kicked. I already knew you were going to lose before you even showed up. And then the other one was, he goes, can you putt? And I'm like, well, yeah, I can fucking putt, bitch. Like, what are you talking about? You don't know me, bro. I can fucking putt. That might end up being the CT call sign. You don't know me, bro. That might be my tag.
You should make it. Skype. Yes, for sure. You don't even know me.
Oh my god, it's fucking funny, man. So it's like Tourette's for me, dude. It's like I got scar tissue, bro.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, it's you got that chip like we talked about. You know, like we're trying to get our kids to have.
Exactly.
I love it. Did you guys have a putting contest, or did
putting for him? Well, we didn't have a putt. He's not a big putter. Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't putt that good anymore.
Well, he's got the toe way up in the air. Remember how low his hands were? Like it was totally.
Yeah. So
not conventional at all.
No. It was that wristy. You know, it was a little bit of that right hand against a firm left wrist. You know, kind of wristy, old school way, right? You know, that a lot of the guys putted with. In my sense of trying to be perfect, of course, you know, all you dipshit mini tour players, right? It's like they I was trying to be like Tiger Woods and then stroking the putter back in slow motion, back and through to like, oh shit, you there?
Yeah. All right, I'm good.
Boom. Yeah, so what I was saying was like, if you can imagine like me sticking my ass out, making my back as straight as I could possibly make it, making sure my arm plane was perfect, and then swinging my putter back in slow motion, back and through to make it look perfect. Although I never fucking putted like that, right? But when you're being analyzed by like one of golf's greatest champions, you want to actually fucking fake the funk, like
you tried to act like that, right? Like you were.
Yeah, act like I'm fucking Mexican Tiger, right? With fucking, no make percentage dog shit. And so he looks at me like, and he starts speaking in Spanish, like, get the fuck out of here is what he's basically saying. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you can't putt like that. You're too slow. And I'm like, what do you mean too slow? He says, your stroke is way too slow. Because I'm hitting these like 15-foot putts, like, but like I said, I'm hitting them very sensitive, like, and trying to be like super
trying
perfect.
To be perfect. Yeah.
And he breaks out a piece of paper. Out of his bag. He asked me for a pencil, and then he gives me the pencil and the piece of paper. He says in Spanish, scribe me a straight line, like make me a straight line with your pencil. So of course, my dumb ass takes the pencil and in slow motion starts to trace like a slow straight line, and he snatches the pencil away. I've only got like 2 inches into my 1 foot straight line that I'm getting ready to make. He snatches the pencil away. He goes, nah, pendejo, give me the fucking pencil. Like, no, dumbass, look. And he takes the pencil from me, and he starts at my thing, and he goes, zip, 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 and he makes these three fast straight lines that are about 12 inches long, and then he puts 2 hash marks about 7 inches wide in the middle of that 12-inch stretch. And right in the middle there, when the pencil started to gain momentum, the line was the straightest. Because the line in the beginning wasn't straight,
right,
and the line at the end curled off. But in the beginning, he was showing me how momentum can help stabilize and sustain the putter.
As you know now, is constant acceleration.
Yes, right? But
From your
here's a guy
putting
with no
lessons.
Sam Lab, right?
Right.
No fucking Sam Lab. Didn't know any of that shit, right? But the old guys, dude, the old guys were legit, bro. You know that.
I know.
The old guys were fucking saucy, dude.
They figured it out.
They knew their shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They knew that contrived fake speed was not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
And it was part of that continual speed and that continuous motion that he was trying to get me to learn. And it was such a valuable lesson that, of course, when I was that age, I didn't really take that into heart, right? It didn't really now that I'm a teacher and I'm more of a student of the game, that should have had a much bigger effect on me than it did in the moment, you know, but I was so blown away that things like that have, like, again, it's just hitting the lottery left and right in my lifetime with a lot of these people that I've been able to, you know, play golf with and pick their brain and have them analyze my game. And it's just been a super awesome journey, you know, so far, to be able to have those great people be able to critique you and help you and teach you.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into some of your coaching stuff, you got to tell us one last story about how you met one of my all-time favorite legends, Billy Casper.
Oh, wow. Well, again, in Southern California, you know, and I'm sure in Charlotte and everywhere we live, you know, there's only word gets around when you're a decent player, and every town there's guys with money, right? And it turns out that, unbeknownst to me, San Diego Country Club I was being given an audition at a Friday money game to attract some new sponsors out of San Diego Country Club, which is in southern San Diego, Chula Vista area, which was very close to where I was living at the time. And so, unbeknownst to me, one of the guys who invited me to play in this game asked Billy Casper about sponsoring young talent. And Billy Casper goes, well, shit, you know, I haven't really heard of anybody that's any good, you know, in a long time. And he goes, well, I've got this kid. His last name's Trevino. And of course, you know, that already stirs the pot right there.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure I got a lot of chances in my life just by that last name anyway. But he says, well, I'll tell you what, bring him out to the Friday game. I'm going to play anyway, put him in my group, and I'll let you know if he's worth sponsoring or not. And of course, all this is happening unbeknownst to me.
Yeah, you didn't
right?
know,
So I
right?
think I'm going to play with a bunch of fucking 5 and 10 handicaps that think they're a baller, and I'm going to shit on their face and take all their money, right? Like that's what I think I'm getting ready to do, right? No, I didn't know I'm playing golf with a goddamn legend of fucking golf, right? And by the way, it's called like Billy's Corner, like the snack bars, like Billy's Corner, right? Like everywhere in the restaurant has all of his U.S. Open trophies, has Masters, has Sports Illustrated covers, right? I mean, this fucking place like a tribute, you know, place to Billy Casper, right? He's got from every time they've redone the course, he has the course record at every time they've redone the course, right? So he's got like 3 different course records over a 40-year period, because he's been the host professional there for like 40 years, right?
Right.
So of course I'm warming up. They introduced me to the other 3 guys we're playing with, and he goes, we're gonna have one more. He's waiting for us up on the tee. He doesn't really like warming up. I'm like, oh, okay, well, fuck. I guess he doesn't like warming up, you know. I get to the tee, and there's a guy in a white jumpsuit carrying a staff bag, looking out towards number 1 fairway. If anybody's played San Diego Country Club, the number 1 fairway goes straight out due west towards the ocean, away from the clubhouse. So he's just staring down the fairway. And I walk onto the tee box, and it's a, you know, kind of a pear-shaped older guy. You know, fitness wasn't Billy's thing. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't, you know, ripped or anything. He was a pear-shaped dude, you know what I mean? And I'm looking at this older guy going, the fuck is this guy? Got a fucking staff bag? What kind of poser is this? Like, gonna bring a staff bag to the money game? Like, what's up with this guy? Turns around, looks me in the eye, and right when I saw him, like, holy shit, it's Billy Casper. And again, I had no idea, right? I had no idea that this was his course, right? That I was, like, stepping on hollowed ground here. And he looks, he goes, you must be Mr. Trevino. And I went, yes, sir. He goes, play hard, kid. And
great.
Did not say. And when I tell the people listening, here's a legend of golf who I'm now, you know, I don't get rattled very often. You know, I've played with a lot of great players, you know, but here I am, like, I'm a fish out of water. I'm trying to impress these guys. I know that there's some sponsorship money on the line. Now I'm being watched by Billy Casper on his home course, and he's not saying a fucking word to me. He's not saying good shot. He's not saying play a little more break on this putt. You know, it's the first time I've ever played the course, right? It's a pretty exclusive private country club, right? They've held a couple of USAMs there. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big time country club. 100% Poana greens. They actually let the Poana overrun the green, and now they only groom Poana. So it's one of the few courses where the greens are weeds, but they're pure, bro.
Yeah.
Like they run like 12s. They're like glass. Well, as fate would have it, every hole was a knuckle. Like, every hole from the tips was a knuckle cut. Like, I could hit a knuckle cut and hit as hard as I want, and the more right I missed it, the easier the course got. So for me, it was like a driver heaven for me. You know what I mean? It was like the easiest driving course in the world, because I could just hit degrees of knuckle cuts, which was my shot. And I was bombing the ball, you know, like 340, 350 on every tee shot. So the course was a joke in terms of how I was driving it that day, right? So here I am, not knowing that they've built these new tee boxes. There's never been a new course record. Billy's never played the tips here. And I'm 8 under par with a putt to go 9 under par on the last hole. And I'm putting back towards the fairway on 18. I've got it left edge, and I've got it breaking down, because if you've ever played there, the 18th green is kind of the highest portion on the course, and everything cascades to the right from there. I'm going over my routine. I set the putter behind. I'm just building my stance, and Billy walks up behind me, goes, "What you got?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He goes, "What read do you have?" And I'm like, "I got left edge." He goes, "Oh, good luck with that."
The first words he said to you.
First words he said to me in 4 hours, right, is that basically I've got no chance of making this putt. So now my brain's scrambled. I'm wondering, is this a test? If I go with his read over mine, they're going to know that I'm not my own man, right? I mean, I'm playing all these head games with myself. So finally, the asshole in me, you know, you don't know me, bro, that side of me basically said, "Fuck you, old man. I'm going to fucking play it left edge. You haven't said a word to me all day. You can suck it, okay? If I miss the putt, at least I miss it on my terms." And God blessed his soul. The fucking putt was a gentle break from right to left. I actually missed the putt about 2 balls left. It was a complete misread.
Oh, man.
And he was right. He was actually wanting me to make the putt, right? He puts his arm around me after I putt out. He goes, "Mr. Trevino," he says, "I played with a lot of young players in my heyday." He says, "I haven't played with many that drive the ball as far and as straight as you and that have as good a wedge game as you do." He says, "But here's the deal. If I was he goes, "How old are you?" And I said, "I'm 26. He goes, "Well, I'll tell you what, when I was 26, if you would have put me in the same places that you were playing from day goes, I would have beat you by 3.
Wow.
And I went, "Excuse me?" He goes, "I would have beat you by 3. He goes, "I'd like to take you back onto the golf course and show you where you misplayed your shots." And I went, okay. He goes, "Would you mind that?" He goes, "Do you really want to go eat lunch, or do you want to go back on the course and hit some shots?" I'm going, fuck lunch. Yeah, let's go hit some shots, right?
That's awesome.
And so he looks back to the guys and goes, "Do whatever you want. Whatever money you want to give him, go ahead. He's worth it. He's good enough." He takes me in his cart. So now I've already got this, like, now I'm signed off by the Godfather, right? That these guys can fucking sponsor me. And this is no bullshit. This is on a Friday afternoon at about 3:30 in the afternoon. We're driving now. He goes, "All right, we're going to go out to 6 first. You hit this wedge shot on 6. You put way too much spin on it," because, of course, I'm a dumbass kid, right? I'm hitting, like, lob wedge from, like, 98 yards, right? Yeah. And I'm fucking landing it 2 feet from the pin and ripping it back 30 feet like a douche, right? And so we drive out onto 6. And, of course, this is Billy Casper's course. There's people literally in the middle of their game. Billy drives up in the car and goes, "Hey, guys, how's it going? Would you mind skipping this hole? I got this young pro, Trevino, here. I'm going to show him how to hit some wedge shots." "Yeah, Billy, no problem." And now we're literally, like, interfering in people's rounds, and they don't even give a shit. They're just letting Billy drive wherever the fuck he wants to drive. And so for the next hour, I got to drive around with Billy Casper, and he showed me, like, put your stance like this, choke down like this, turn the face like this, and hit it like this, right? And it's all that old time shit, man. It's all those old school guys, dude. They had all these secret sauce shots, you know what I mean, that they would break out. And when they see a young guy who's got some ability, they're so helpful. You know what I mean? Like they're just so, they're at that point in their life where they don't care about the secrets anymore. You know, they want to give back and shit. You know, I'm sure in their heyday, they wouldn't have told you a fucking thing because the purse money was so terrible that
Right.
you didn't want to give up any of your secrets now, you know, back then.
It's just amazing that he like was so quiet for so long. Just observing,
so
right? There's a lesson.
Right?
There's a lesson in itself right there.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. So he wanted to make me feel as uncomfortable as I could feel. And
to see how
it
good
just
you
so
were.
happened that, most of the time I was, you know, unless it was second stage of Q school with 9 holes to play, I wasn't a spaz. You know, if you got me, you know, and if you got me in that position where I knew I could change my stars, I tended to really get, you know, in my own way. And in this case, when I was playing in these isolated, you know, endeavors, I did tend to rise to the occasion more than not. I mean, I have plenty of stories where I shot 78 in a fucking money game where some guy wanted to sponsor me, thought I was a fucking hack. I mean, Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, in the times I really needed to step up, you know, I was a good enough player to be able to do that. So that was it, man. That was my that's my Billy Casper story.
Such a great story. So
yeah, dude, it was awesome, man.
So let's take us to what you're doing now, because I mean you've built, I think, an unbelievable academy for juniors, and I know you teach adults as well. So tell us a little bit about like how that happened.
Oh God!
I know this is another good story too, right? About the
God, man,
the PGA.
I feel like I'm the goddamn storyteller of podcasts.
That's okay, man. This is good. I mean, we can all learn from this stuff, but I mean, like I said, your journey is a life lesson, I think, in itself, of persevering.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy,
right?
If
if
you would have told me, right? I mean, if you would have told me on my 30th birthday that I'd be living in Reno, Nevada, and I would have helped 25 kids get, you know, a Division 1 or 2 scholarship to play in golf in college, I would have fucking laughed in your face, right? I mean, I've been like, dude, you're high. Like, I'm not going to teach golf. I'm a fucking golf player, right? I'm not going to be teaching golf to anybody. So, fast forward, you know, all the way till 2008, I got an opportunity through when I played for San Diego State. The head coach of the men's team at University of Nevada, Reno, was a gentleman by the name of Tom Duncan. And Tom Duncan did very well for himself in a lot of different endeavors here locally in Reno, and had the opportunity to purchase a golf course, and now has purchased about 4 others. So at the time, he owned this golf course, and I would come up to Reno every once in a while to play in some pretty high stakes gambling games, because here in Nevada, in Vegas and Reno, they like to gamble for a little bit higher money than your typical $100 Nassau or $20 Nassau. So, you know, you could bring 10 grand up here and triple it in a couple of days if you can shoot 65 every time you play on a course you've never seen. But it was a time where I would come up and try to roll my dice and make some sponsorship money, because at that point in 07, 08, 09, people were starting to see the writing on the wall, right? I mean, the purses and mini tours were not advancing. If anything, they were declining and getting worse. You know, anybody who had been on the mini tours for 5 or 6 years, it's kind of like a death window, right? Like, if you're not out of the mini tours in a 5-year period, you're probably bartending or fucking, you know, coaching golf, you know, at that point. So it's one of those deals where I was sort of like starting to, you know, stink up the joint a little bit. But, you know, I was talking to Tom here locally, and he said, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. And I always held that kind of in my back pocket. I never really cashed in on it. And in 2009, I called him up and said, you know, I'd like to come out and talk to you about getting sponsored and playing professionally. You know, at that point, my world rank was like 1,400 in the world or something like that. You know, I had a few exemptions in Asia to play in some stuff and all kinds of stuff. So I had a little bit of a decent, you know, resume I could play with. And I walked up, and my big deal was, as you know, in sponsorships, you're never on the hook, right? So it's like, it's a higher risk investment, right? So the legalities of the player, I'm always protected, right? So
right.
I decided to throw a curveball and go, you know what? I'm going to fucking man up. I'm going to man up like a fucking champ. I'm going to tell him that I want $100,000 a year for 2 years, And whatever I'm in the red, after I'm done with it, I'll cover it, right? So if I end up 50,000 in the red, I'll take on 25, right? If I'm 100 in the hole, I'll take on 100. I'll take on 50, right? And at that time, that was kind of unheard of in the lower level professional golf world, to take on 50% of the debt at the end of their relationship, where most guys would just walk away, free and clear, and the guy got a free write-off, right? So I walk into his office with my fucking little dress shirt on, thinking I'm all hot shit, and sit down, go through this proposal with him. And then I put in the coup de grace, and I just go, all right, man, I'm going to take on 50%. And he goes, and now I give him the spiel. I go, and here's the kicker, Mr. Duncan, right? A self-made millionaire, right? A guy that's busted his ass his whole life. I looked him square in the eye and I said, and whatever I happen to owe you when this is all said and done, which if I do owe you anything, I'm willing to take on 50% of the debt. Thinking that was like my big closing, like, yes, I'm going to show you how manly I am fucking speech. He looked at me and he goes, pick your ass up out of the fucking leather chair that I paid 100% for, not 50, and get the fuck out of my office. I went, excuse me? He goes, don't even look at me. Don't even talk to me. Take your sorry ass out of here. Get on a plane, go back to San Diego, and leave me the fuck alone. And I'm going, are you serious? He goes, I'm dead serious. I don't even want to look at you right now. Get the fuck out of my office. The deal's over. And I'm going, what the fuck? I'm like, this went drastically wrong, right? I'm thinking like, this is like nowhere near what I had played out, right?
Yeah.
I get to the parking lot and I'm sitting in my car and I'm literally devastated because I've sold off, I had a condo in San Diego with another guy. We went on halves on it. I've sold off a bunch of my furniture already. Like, I was already thinking like, I'm moving up next week, right? Yeah. I'm sitting there like, not necessarily in tears, but I'm pretty down, dude. I'm sitting there going, fuck, dude, this was my last straw. Like, I don't have anything else really going on. He knocks on the window and he goes, get out of the car. And he's this big guy. Like, I mean, he's a heavy set guy, but he's strong as an ox, right? Played baseball at UNR and was the men's coach for University of Nevada for like 10 years. And he's, Rich Barcelo, who's played on the PGA Tour, played for him, right? Like a lot of really good players have come out of Reno. And he goes, you know why you'll never make it, Trevino? You know why you'll never fucking make it? And I'm going, no, Tom, why I won't ever make it? He goes, because you only 50% believe in yourself, you little fucking pussy. He goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, you think you're going to come into my office and borrow my fucking money and then tell me that you're only going to pay me back 50% if you don't do good? He goes, I don't want to sponsor a guy like that. I want a guy that doesn't give a shit about the money. He goes, if you're as good as you say you are, then take on 100%, you fucking pussy. And I went, fuck, he's right.
Yeah.
Then it hit me, right? Like, it hit me. Us little prima donna mini tour pros, other than our, and I'm doing air quotes right now that we can't see on podcasts, other than our hard work, which is what? Going to fucking Jamba Juice and going to the gym and hitting golf balls. Like, that's like fucking hard work for us, mini tour pros. Mini tour pros don't have a dog in the fight. They really don't, in terms of the financial commitment, right? So when he said that to me, it was a huge wake-up call that I missed the boat, right? No wonder I've been playing off other people's money. And if I don't make it, well, I don't make it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, but if it was my fucking money, would I act differently? That's what he wanted to say. And as fate would have it, the crash. So I agreed. We signed contracts. I played in a couple of events, but that's when the whole 2008-9 crash was happening and shit just went down the toilet. And he just looked at me, man. He just said, hey, man, I got to protect my assets. I got to protect this. I can't give you $100,000 to go to Thailand and fuck a bunch of hookers and try to play, Asian tour golf. He goes, you can't be doing that shit. And I'm like, okay. He goes, so you're going to just work here at the course until this recession blows off, and we'll get back after it after the recession blows off. And now I'm cleaning tables, bartending, fucking serving food at weddings, right? And I'm literally drinking myself to sleep every night. Thinking like, what in the fuck has my life like turned out to be? Like, I'm living in fucking Reno, right? And it's like my life was over, right? And my only therapy, here comes the teaching part.
Yeah.
My only therapy was in the evenings when I wasn't picking the range or bartending for a wedding, I would hit balls. And of course, there was these group of 5 or 6 kids who would be at the course every day. You know, those little range kids that were at the course like every fucking day. And these 3 kids in particular, every time I was hitting balls, they'd be coming off 9 or 18. They'd see me and they'd go like get a Coke and they'd sit Indian style behind me, about 20 feet behind me. And they wouldn't say a fucking word to me. And they would just watch me hit balls for 2 hours. And I didn't want to talk to them. I didn't want to like them. I didn't have anything to offer to them. I was in a terrible place. I wasn't in a good place. I just didn't want to talk to them. And finally, after like 2 weeks of this, I finally broke silence. Where I go, all right, what the fuck do you guys want? What do you little shitheads want? You're not going to get any better at golf watching me hit balls. They're like, and they just stopped and they said, how do you do that? I'm like, how do I do what? And they're like, how are you hitting the ball so fucking pure? They didn't say fucking, but they're like, how did you hit the ball so pure like that? Like, we've never seen anybody hit the ball like you before. I go, well, that's because I hit balls every day, bro, and I practice. You dumbasses are sitting on your ass. You're not doing shit. And they're like, well, yeah, we play golf every day. I go, yeah, they're all dressed like Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth, right? So they got the fucking they got the flat bill, and they got the fucking Under Armour, right? They look like little geeks, right? It's like straight out of the catalog, right? I said, can you guys play or not? They go, well, yeah, we can play. We're getting scholarships to college. And then it hit me. Here I am. Here is like deja vu all over again, right? I'm like, oh, really? You're
Mr. Blackmar. You're Mr. Blackmar all of a sudden.
I'm Mr. Blackmar now. I'm the old fucking geezer. Now I'm Miyagi, right?
Yeah, you are.
And they said, we're getting scholarships to college. I go, oh, really? I go, what do you shoot? And with the chest puffed out, they said 85 to 90.
Oh, jeez.
And I stopped and I went, what did you say? And they go, well, we shoot like 85, like 90 right now from the white tees. We're doing pretty good. I go, what grade are you in? They're like, well, 2 of us are 8th graders and I'm a 9th grader. And I go, you guys have no fucking chance of getting a scholarship to college shooting 90 from the fucking white tees. I go, you know what? I can't take this. I go, what are you fucking guys doing tomorrow? They're like, well, we're playing golf. I go, all right, we're going to play tomorrow, 7:30. Meet me here at the course. So I take them out to play. And of course, they all shoot 100, right? Because now they're nervous as fuck.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I shoot 63. And like, I think I shot 63 with an out of bounds because I'm playing the white tees and I tried to like cut it over a corner and I pull hooked it in some houses and shit, right? So we get done playing, right? And I looked at them and I said, and they've been telling me, you know, I've been going to this coach for 3 years and I go to one guy went to Golf Tech and the other 2 guys had different coaches and been going to him for 3 years. And I said, guys, here's the deal. Let me tell you what's going on here. There's only 2 things going on in this scenario after they all got done shooting 100 from the white tees. It was like 6,000 yards at 5,000 feet elevation, right? I said, either you don't listen to a fucking thing that any of these guys tell you to do, or they don't know their fucking ass from their elbow and you need to leave them tomorrow. Those are the only 2 scenarios going on right now. You can choose which one it is. But you guys need to figure it the fuck out because you're nowhere near getting a scholarship to play college. You guys aren't worth a fuck right now. I go, I got to go. I got carts to wash. I'm the fucking cart boy now. Okay? So, couple days go by.
Oh, my gosh.
Here come the 3 fathers of these kids storming into the pro shop, demanding to speak to the head pro, Chris Trevino, who has told their kids that they ain't got a fucking chance in hell of getting a scholarship to college. And when the guy tells them, well, Chris Trevino's not the head pro here, he goes, well, where the hell's Chris Trevino? Well, he's back there washing carts. And they go, the fucking cart boy? The cart boy's telling my kid he ain't got a fucking chance to play worth a shit? So here I am, bro. As habit, we're like doing a 36-hole shotgun that day, right? I look like a meat packing guy, right? With apron on. I'm power washing dirty ass carts. I smell like a 12-pack of beer in a strip joint, right? I'm giving fucking food cans and shit. Here come these parents. I've never seen them before. They got these death stares on me. And they go, are you Chris Trevino? It's like I owed him $50,000, you know? They're like, are you Chris Trevino? I'm like, yeah, who the fuck wants to know? And he goes, who the hell do you think you are telling my kid this and telling my kid that? I go, whoa, time out, Pops. Hold the fucking phone here, okay? You don't even know me, bro. You don't know who the fuck I am. I go,
it's a common theme.
This outfit.
You don't know me, bro.
Don't let this outfit fool you, okay? I know I got dirt and shit all over me right now, but I'm a fucking player, okay? And they're just looking at me like, if you can only imagine, they're just looking at me like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. The cart boy is telling my kid he ain't worth a shit. I said, did your kid tell you what I shot? And they go, no. I said, well, I shot 63 with an out of bounds. Okay, I'm the touring pro for this course, and I'm doing Mr. Duncan a favor by washing these fucking carts. I go, I'm not a teaching pro, but I'm here to tell you that if I was teaching your kid for the last 3 years, they wouldn't be shooting 100. I go, they just told me that their pros never seen them play one hole of golf on the golf course. I go, and they come here every day and waste your money and their time because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So don't get mad at me because your kid ain't worth a shit at fucking golf. Leave me the fuck alone. Let me get back to my stupid ass job. So they leave, right? Yeah. Mind you, I'm talking to two of them own casinos here in town, right? These are not guys that are typically told to fuck off, right? Because they have millions of dollars, right? But of course, my dumbass, I don't know who's who in this town because I've only lived here for 6 months, right? So the next day, I'm hitting balls and a phone call comes in and it's one of the dads. And he says, hey, you got this phone call? And I answer. I go, yeah, this is Chris. What's up? And he's like, yeah, I met you the other day. Please don't hang up on me. And I went, okay, what's up? He goes, I want you to coach my kid. I go, I don't coach golf lessons, bro. It's not my shit. I don't do that. And he goes, no, you have to. He idolizes you. He thinks you're God's gift to golf. I go, well, I don't coach kids. He's like, you won't reconsider? You won't think? I go, well, I don't even know what to tell you, bro. I'm a golf player, not a golf coach. So I hang up on him. Call my dad that night. And of course, you know my dad, the ultimate realist. I said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. This fucking rich prick called me and wants me to coach his snot-nosed fucking kid who can't break an egg with fucking both hands. And my dad goes, well, are you going to consider it? I go, no, I'm not going to consider it. I go, I'm a tour pro. He goes, yeah, really? What tour are you playing on these days? Oh, and I went, you son of a bitch.
Boom.
You don't know me, bro. Actually, you do know me.
You don't know me, Dad.
You do know me because you're... So, and then he says, you're being an idiot.
He just dug deep into your soul right there.
Oh, dude, cut me hard, right? Like, he goes, oh, yeah, what tour are you playing on? The fucking Tijuana fucking tech tour? Like, shut your mouth. You're not playing on any tour. Quit living in La La Land, bro. You wash carts at fucking Wolf Run Municipal Golf Course right now. That's who you are. And he says, maybe teaching this kid might be a springboard for you. Maybe. He says, what do you think it would be worth if you were able to take a couple of kids on the course and show them the playbook from a pro player's viewpoint? Like, what would it be worth? The answer is priceless. The answer really is priceless. Some tour pros could be dangerous, but it is priceless commodity to look through the lens of a guy who's played at a really high level. Yeah. And after talking to my dad, I'm like, well, fuck, maybe I should consider it. And he said, well, what do you want to charge? I go, I don't know, $1,000 a month. If he's my only student, I'm going to be with him fucking 6 days a week. In my mind, it was like $1,000 a month was like a lot of money, right? And so I look up on the registry. I called the dad back. I said, hey, look, I'm giving your proposition some thought. And I said, if I work with him, it's got to be my way. I don't want anybody else involved. And it's 6 days a week and it's 8 hours a day. And he goes, okay, done. And he says, how much do you want? I go, it's going to be $1,000. It's going to be $1,000 a month. He goes, done. You want it all right now, or do you want it once a month? I'm going, fuck. I was like, should have said 2,000.
You should have said more.
You know? It was like super easy. Like, it was like all of a sudden it was like $1,000 for one client for a month. I was like, well, shit. Like, that's pretty decent money for one kid for 1 month, right?
Yeah.
Well, this particular kid, he shot 98 the day I played with him. In 90 days, he was shooting in the mid-70s. And a year to the day that I met him, he won the Nevada State Junior Am shooting 11 under par.
Wow. So what was the secret? Give us some details.
To be honest, in that day, because I didn't know anything, I'll be honest, and this is a part where I would love to get some feedback from some other guys, but my effectiveness came from golf IQ. I just made him the smartest golfer I could make him with the shots he was choosing and then how to actually read the golf course like a book, right? Like his technique was dog shit, but he could hit the ball halfway decent. He just didn't understand what a true number was, right? He didn't understand that like uphill into the wind, you're adding 12, not 3.
Right.
Right. Like things like that, like this ball is going to come out of this grass knuckling and this ball is going to come out rising. Right. Like
golf stuff.
Getting them to understand. Yeah. Golf stuff, dude. And short game.
Yeah.
Right. So like I was dangerous. I was good. I could teach them what I knew about the short game, which I was confident in. I didn't even talk to him about ball flight. I didn't talk to him about swing. I didn't talk to him about anything for the first like 6 months because I didn't know. Right. That's when I started calling Doc. And I started calling Doc like, dude, I'm going to need to just send you some videos of these fucktards because I don't want to say something to them that's wrong. Because what I didn't want to do is teach them what I do. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it was I didn't want it to be like, oh, just swing like me and you'll be awesome. Like I know my swing has its own little idiosyncrasies, right? You know, it's like I wasn't trying to teach them how I swing. I just wanted to teach them how to better play the game of golf and how to score. And it was militant. So there was pressure. I pressurized every situation, right? So it's like I put standards online. You fuck this up, you owe me 1,000 push-ups.
Yeah.
If you owe me 1,000 push-ups, you're not gonna be able to pick up your fucking arms.
So you put consequences with it. You put restraints. Yep. Yeah, stuff that we talk about all the time now that you didn't even know, but you just did it.
Yeah, exactly. I just did it, right? So I started creating practice scenarios that had consequences attached to them. So it was more real. So they were more they were more, involved in it, and they were learning to deal with that shit better. And then as that one kid, I never print out a business card. And Reno's a small town, so the minute this kid started kicking the shit out of everybody in town,
word spread.
I was in Reno. And now every fucking parent wanted me to teach their kid. And so I went from like 1 kid to 3 kids to 9 kids to 20 kids in like less than a year.
Right.
And then I just started pitting them against each other and creating these competitive scenarios, like peer group competition stuff. And again, a lot of it was flying by the seat of my pants. I didn't know anything other than all I was consumed with was the end result. How do you play when it matters? How do you play in a tournament?
Do you remember? Do you remember any like examples of like some of the games or scenarios you created for the group?
So I had something called the gauntlet, right? So the gauntlet was I set up like 5 short game scenario shots. I grouped everybody together, and then I went through the gauntlet first with showing them this is how the tool needs to look. This is the application of the technique. This is how the shot should respond on the green. And if you know how to do this, you should be able to hit 3 of these in a row inside a club length. And that is the tax that you have to pay to get to the next station, right? And the longer you take at a station, you're going to end up bottlenecking the group. So I had them in groups of 2. So as each 2 guys would complete a station, they would jump to the next station and start hitting the shot, right? And if guys were stuck on a certain station, they were holding up the group. And if you hold it up the group, everybody had to start over. So you had like 15 minutes to get through this little maze that I created, right? Mm-hmm. And if you were a proficient short game player, it wasn't a difficult thing to do. But most kids are more fascinated with how they hit a 7-iron than how they chip a ball, right? So I just started that we called it the gauntlet, right? So that was a big thing. And then I would have range targets, right? And this was when, I got it from Blackburn, right? So Doc was also in with Blackburn, and this is when Mike and Andy and Stack and Tilt shit was going on. I had those ropes. I had those long ass fucking ropes, like those fluorescent ropes that I would put out in front of the kid. And if you told me what kind of ball flight you were gonna produce, and it didn't end in the proper position in relation to the rope, right? Your team had to run like, laps up and down the hills at the driving range, then come back, right? So there was all kinds of shit like going on with each one, right? And then I made the only way to create pressure sometimes is to make them be on stage, right? So I would have the whole academy stop and then bottleneck around the one kid who was the most nervous and have all of them watch him hit the ball.
Right.
Because that's a priceless commodity. Like you can't recreate that kind of pressure other than a tournament. So when I've got all the fucking studs in Reno watching this little poor slapdick try to hit a draw 7-iron without crossing the target line, and his little knees are shaking, that's exactly how he feels probably when he's trying to get around in the house that he, when he's on the golf course.
Yeah.
And of course he would fail miserably. And when he would fail, I would make the studs do the punishments for him. And then he would not want to fucking piss these guys off anymore. And more times than not, the kids would rise to the occasion because they're much stronger than we give them credit for.
Or they'd go practice, right? Or they would make
or they would be humiliated that day. And then by the next time I saw them, they would never be humiliated that way again. You might find a different chink in their armor to fuck with them, but they're probably not going to get fucked with that way again, right? But when there's no consequences to how shitty your 7-iron play is or how bad you chip a ball, you're probably going to do it for a little bit longer than what you should be doing it for, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's it, man. So I started with kids in my first 3 or 4 years. Like I said, man, it was pretty fly by the seat of my pants, but I took notes on every kid. I went to their tournaments. You know what I mean? Like I would study how they were playing. They would have to write essays back to me on how they were feeling in the moment and, different things like that. And I just became very in tune with my players, and I became known as a guy who actually cared, and to this day, it's probably my biggest asset is that I genuinely give a fuck what you shoot. You know what I mean? Like, even if I just met you last week, like I care. And
right.
that's been, what's kept me going, other than, good results, but, that's been the deal. So I've fluctuated as we all have through, you got the Max stuff, and then you got the Mike and Andy stuff, and then you got the fucking Manzella stuff, and you know what I mean? You got the John Doherty stuff, it's like, I've drank the Kool-Aid, I've drank the Kool-Aid from everybody, but what I learned from Scott Cokes the biggest thing I took from the thing, if you want to know, is here I am looking at TrackMan is basically capturing impact in perfect clarity. And here I am chastising a lot of my players about what the alignments look like in impact, and shame on me, I've never educated them as to what those alignments really are
and how to fix them, right? I mean, I think that's what you're working on now is like how do we change those alignments? I was actually shocked when I asked my players, show me what you should look like with a 7-iron. I gave them a 7-iron and a driver. Show me what you should look like to hit a flighted draw 7-iron at impact. And then show me what you should look like to nuke a bomb driver, swing 3 degrees up on it. And the way that they were creating their bodies was so fucked up, they didn't even have a chance to look the way I'm asking them to look. Right.
Because I never gave them that piece of the puzzle. And I felt really terrible. I'm going, fuck, here I am talking shit to them. And I didn't educate them as to, if we can work from impact backwards in some ways, at least you now know what the body's supposed to look like and what the club's supposed to look like to hit that desired shot. So It's been very helpful for me, just picking up that little piece of the puzzle, about how important impact alignments really are.
Yeah, no
that
doubt.
Timeless look, that bent trail arm and that rotated body, all that stuff that we'd like to see, when we slow down the iPhone, instead of the hump the goat fucking flip biscuits shit that we typically see.
And now you understand the accumulators that Doc kept screaming at you about.
Yes.
And you had no clue about. Now you understand
it. You're firing 3 pard. You got no chance pard. You're tipped out at P6. Shut the fuck up. I don't know what the fuck are you talking about. So yeah, man, that was it, man. So I started teaching adults.
I was gonna say now you got your academy, and you've been doing that for how many years? I mean, you got
I mean, it's been 2000. I opened up the indoor. We have Reno's only indoor golf facility, so full service, right? So fitness gym, hitting bays, chipping and putting. And full service club repair. So I'm a all in one inclusive shop. So looking forward to you coming out and checking it out. But
I can't wait.
It's it truly is a one-stop shop for your junior golfer. So we can take care of everything, and for that matter, any golfer that really loves golf, we can do everything. So I've been through a lot of employees, and for those of us that are in management, You know, it's hard to find guys that are jack of all trades, or the guys that are willing to, you know, bleed the blood for the brand and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of great guys come through TGI in the last, you know, 5 or 6 years. Some of them have gone on to try to do their own thing, and that's fine. And other guys have got out of the golf business because, you know, as you know, it just doesn't pay as great as we all want, unless you're the guy, you know, in the trenches every day, you know, given 6-7 lessons every other day. It's hard to make, you know, a decent living. So so I've got a smaller team now that I'm dealing with and training them, and just trying to kind of dominate the landscape of Reno golf lessons. You know, when you think about getting better at golf in this town, I would want you, you know, to go nowhere else but our place. And we're doing a lot of cool things, you know, and just looking to get better. And guys like you that I look up to, that you know, I can pick their brain, and you can include me in some of these forward thinking, you know, groups with these different guys. It's an honor for me to be invited to some of these things and come hang out with you guys and learn as much as I can.
Yeah, you're doing great stuff, man. And I'm super proud of you, and can't wait to see what you're going to do in the future. Cause like I said, you've got all the qualities of a great coach, and I've learned a lot from you just from our relationship, and I just can't wait to see. Like you're putting so many good players. I mean, and that's the thing, is like you're so underrated, probably even in your own area, that you're creating champions.
You know, as
in a different way, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
I think
I've done a very poor job, you know, and it's the whole social media movement I've not really been a part of, you know, and it's like, you know, as we were talking before about the Finney and the Manzella and all stuff, it's like, as much as like I want to get into this stuff, it's like, I swear to God, dude, I feel like I teach 10 golf lessons a day, and by the time I get done, you know, I'm kind of golfed out. You know, I want to just go home, be with my family, and wake up fresh the next day and try to be of the best, you know, service I can be for the people that are in front of me. And I've missed out on a lot of opportunities and probably building better relationships. And my 2019 campaign is committed to doing a lot more things like this, getting on podcast and getting better into social media, and really starting to travel around and be with you guys at these different places that I can be at, because I know how valuable, you know, learning and growing and becoming better at your craft. Those are all things that I'm preaching and talking shit to my kids all day. And here I am, like 5 years later, hadn't even gone and gotten any more, you know, certifications or been around any forward thinkers. So it's important to me to walk the walk and talk the talk. And that's just what I'm committed to doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing it, man. So tell the listeners how they can reach out to you and say thank you or come work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're located in Reno, Nevada. Let's see, the internet or the email would be tgireno@gmail.com. Once again, that's tgireno@gmail.com. Anytime you want to Google Trevino Golf Institute, you know, got some pretty crazy vids of me doing some wacky shit with a golf club, hitting it through dudes' legs at, you know, 6 irons go 200 miles an hour through guys' legs and shit, you know. So, you know, lots of cool videos out there, but you can definitely come see me in Reno anytime you want, and set up, you know, a day with the pro and all kinds of stuff, and we can hook it up from there.
And you got Instagram as well, right?
Yeah, Instagram, Trevino Golf Institute, on Instagram.
And Twitter.
Putting out and Twitter, right? So putting out all that stuff, and haven't been too much on the Twitter handles, but I'm gonna get going on that and start to get my social media game going.
There you go, man.
I don't know if I can go full GG, go Genghis on everybody, but I'm gonna be like mini Genghis, you know, like I'm not gonna be do flip flops and flat bills, but I'll be talking shit, and doing some other stuff.
You're the man, bro. Thanks so much for coming on.
All right, brother. You got it, man. Have a great night.
What's up, everyone? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Chris Trevino for coming on the show and sharing his story, and also just some great nuggets in there, as well as some very entertaining life lessons and stories wrapped into that really fun conversation. Make sure you reach out to Chris. Follow him on Instagram at Trevino Institute and Twitter. And also check out his website at trevinoinstitute.com. You can follow me if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Golf Guru TV, and reach out and tell me what's going on, man. I want to hear your goals for this year. I want to get some feedback on the show. Anything you want to share. If you want to do it privately, hit me up on the DM, or also you can email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com. Either way, I just want to hear from you more this season to really reiterate all the stuff that we're talking about. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. That's the way we get better. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show are produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. Also, leave me an iTunes review or a rating. That would help immensely to grow this show. So that would be awesome. And as I always leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn quote, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.